In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this console table with these cool little cross braces on the end using just cheap lumber like 2x6s, 2x4s, and a couple 1x4s. Now, I know this will bring the YouTube commenters out of the woodwork to complain about building projects with cheap pine and Doug fir lumber. I actually disagree with everyone there. I think you should use what you have, and if you need some furniture and you want to build it really cheap, just use cheap lumber. So we needed a place to put our TV, and I'm not in the position to buy a whole bunch of hardwood, so this is what we went with. And if it offends you, just go watch another video. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting the sides. Each side's going to have 2 long boards and 2 short boards, and if you want the exact measurements, you can find the plans in the description. So I'm going to assemble the sides, the legs of the console table, and I'm just starting some screws. I'm going to put it all together, and you'll see what the legs look like, and then we'll move on to something a little more interesting. So just running these screws in here, and I did put a little wood putty in the screw holes here. And I want to point out, I wanted to paint this, or I thought I was going to paint it, but I actually don't like painting over lumber. I just prefer even the look of cheap pine lumber over paint. So I did end up filling in with a wood putty that didn't match exactly, but we really like the table, so no complaints here. So that's what one side looks like. That's one leg, or I guess that's one end of the table. And so here's what they look like, 1 and 2. So that's the first part. Now for the only, I wouldn't say complicated, but maybe the most complicated part of the project are these little cross braces that go inside those table ends. And so I'm just making the cuts here. Again, you can get the angles and all of the measurements in the plans in the description. But what I'm going to do is set one in here, then I'm going to set the other and mark where they're going to overlap. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. So here's the other one. I just raised it up a little bit so I could fit both in their position. I'm going to make some marks here, and what I'm going to do is half lap these 2 boards so that they fit perfectly within the end there. So now that we've got our marks, I'm going to take all 4, so we've got 2 boards for each side, total of 4, put those together where the lines are all lined up. That way I can just cut them all at once. And what I'm doing here is trying to set my circular saw so that it cuts about halfway. That way I can make this half lap. And so what I'm doing here is just making a ton of cuts just to sort of hollow out that part that I want. Kind of smash those pieces out with a hammer, and I'll use a chisel to clean them up. You'll see that in just 1 second. Alright, so now I'm just using a chisel to flatten out everything in there, smooth it out. And it looks like I should have used just a little bit more on the circular saw. So I've got a bit of material to take away with the chisels, but that's no problem. I actually enjoy that more than cutting with power tools. So just working on these half laps here until they fit together nice and clean. So once they do, I'm going to take them back to the table ends over there. Make sure they fit together nice and smooth. So they weren't a perfect fit, but close enough. That's the beauty of using cheap lumber. It's like you don't have to overthink it. I'm not selling this project for a ton of money or anything, but once I got them where I like them, I was pretty happy with it. So I'm going to put some screws in here. If you notice, there is a bit of a gap on some of the corners, but nothing too crazy. And now I'm going to go ahead and mark a couple 2x6s. This is going to be my tabletop. Take them over to the miter saw. As you can see, I'm using the 20-volt battery-powered DeWalt miter saw. Doesn't have a ton of power, but I'm pretty happy with it. And now I'm gluing these 3 2x6s together. Now, like I mentioned, I did plan on painting this when I first started building. So I kind of let the glue go all over the place because I thought it wouldn't matter. But if you're not going to paint, don't use a ton of glue because it will leave a sort of yellow stain on the board. I didn't end up gluing this, but I did a lot of sanding to sort of get that yellow off of there, and it looks fine to us. We're happy with it. So now I'm clamping these boards together. You know, this isn't a super detailed project. I'm not trying to plane it. I don't even have that equipment available. So what I'm trying to do now is just clean up the glue. As you can see, those yellow stains in the cracks there. Yeah, I did plan on painting and I'm not anymore. So decided to do a little 1/2 inch round over, or that may be like a 3/8 round over on the corners here, just to make it look a little nicer. And as you can see, the boards aren't perfectly even, but I'm not stressing it. So now I'm sanding it. Ended up going real heavy on that. Again, this is probably where I decided I was going to not paint it. So started working on getting that yellow stain out from the glue, but just sanding everything down. Anywhere I put a little wood filler, sanding that smooth. And now I'm going to attach these 2 legs together with the cross braces there. Now what I did here was I drilled a 1/2 inch hole and ran the screw in it, and then I'm going to use a dowel. So there I am doing the 1/2 inch hole and the screw in it. I'm going to use a dowel to hide those screws. And so we've got 2 boards on the top and 2 on the bottom. The table is upside down right now, so this is the bottom. Got my son right here helping me to hold it. The first couple ones were easy to put in and tight, but that one was kind of dangling. So here I'm putting in a 1/2 inch dowel, little flush cut saw, just to hide those screws. Again, I thought I was painting before, but at this point I realized I wasn't, so I was hiding it with the actual same wood, and a little sand job over those, and looks like it never happened. So right here, this is a 1x4, and I've got a little block on the end so that I don't have to measure a bunch of times. I think I needed something like 13 or 14 of these. If you get the plans from the description, you'll get an exact count on this. But yeah, I'm just cutting a whole bunch of those and sanding the ends since they will be exposed, and again, not painting. So sanding the ends there, and then I actually decided I was going to go ahead and just round the corners on all of these. I just think that looks a lot nicer, and I did that on all of those boards. Again, I don't remember if it was 12, 13, 14 boards. So just added a few more minutes to the project, and now I'm just attaching these with brad nails. So simple, I think they're 1.5 inch 18 gauge brad nails, and I spaced everything out a 1/4 inch. I actually used a couple pennies. I think a penny is a 1/16 of an inch, so 4 is a 1/4 inch. Anyway, now I'm applying some Odie's oil. This is the first time I've ever used Odie's oil, and it's a really expensive oil, probably a waste to put it all over this cheap lumber, especially since it's food grade and all of that. But I just wanted to try it out on something, and this is what I was building, so I thought I'd try it on this, and I actually love it. I think it looks really good on the pine. It gave it a nice waterproof coat, and it looks really good in our house right now, this little console table. So just soaking it, this stuff, all you do is just wipe it all over the project, let it sit for 30-40 minutes or more, and then just wipe it off. And so now I'm attaching the tabletop to our frame here, just getting it centered and running some screws that do not penetrate out the other side. That's important. And that's pretty much it. So like I said, it's cheap lumber. Didn't take a whole lot of time to build, and we love it. So right now we're using it as a TV stand. And again, if you want to make this project, check out the plans in the description, and I will see you in the next video.